Welcome to Mo's Market Pulse. I'm your host, Sara Mokaram, founder of Mo Digital Solutions, where we partner with businesses to scale and thrive. This is the podcast where we sit down with industry leaders to dive into their businesses, uncover market insights, explore growth strategies, and discuss the challenges they face, plus where they see 2025 heading. Today, I'm thrilled to have Sid Chaudhary, founder and CEO of Intempt Technologies, join us. Technologies Growth OS is a growth engine for marketing teams and was specifically designed for e-commerce and SaaS business needs. It streamlines workflows and offers an all-in-one, easy-to-use platform. So to start off, I'd love to hear more about your personal journey, Sid. Every founder has a very unique story, and I think our audience would love to hear what led you to where you are today and what initially got you interested in this industry.
Yeah, Sarah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Intempt Technologies has been through two pivots, so to speak. Our initial ambition was more around being a web personalization product. So I personally spent a lot of time in the content management space, building one of the first content management systems, and then I spent a lot of time in the analytics space. I worked for several startups. And a company called Omniture that was acquired by Adobe Systems. And I worked as part of the Adobe Marketing Cloud team. And so I was involved in content management systems and analytics systems for advertising and marketing solutions. And so one of the products that I had built at the time or helped build at the time was web personalization. So my initial background and kind of knowledge was in building a web personalization product. So the first avatar of Intempt Technologies was in the web personalization space. And as my experience as a founder grew, as markets changed and matured, our ambitions shifted to being broader than that. So today, Intempt Technologies, has reimagined and rebuilt itself as a growth OS. And really the central thesis of the company and the product is that growing a digital business is really, particularly a product-led digital business, is really about product and growth teams, traditional marketing teams in charge of, acquisition and conversion. And then finally, sales teams, because a lot of product-led businesses are actually sales assisted, qualifies the lead and has some initial engagement through a premium offering, and then sales teams, really lower touch sales teams, actually upsell the customer to a more mature solution. The thesis of the company is that we really provide a customer data platform that unifies the work of product and growth teams, marketing teams, and low touch sales teams. In order for these three teams that typically have had separate products and workflows that they work with over the years, we've built a customer data platform that really unifies the work of these three types of teams or roles within a product-led business. So yeah, the journey and the thesis went from, Sid, me personally being in the content management and then the web analytics and web personalization space. And so Intent Technology is naturally having that sort of orientation in its first avatar to now in 2025, have a growth OS that really the ambition is around product, marketing, and sales teams working harmoniously on a unified workspace.
So would you say that one of the core problems that you're solving with this is bridging communication gaps and being able to bring all of those teams together on one platform?
Well, really the reason why it's not really a communication gap so much between these roles. Really, the reason that product teams, marketing and sales teams don't work smoothly together to provide a unified customer experience to the end customer is because of the data set and the data silos. These data silos are between different SaaS products. So you've typically got a sales team in Salesforce or HubSpot. You've got a marketing team classically in an analytics or a experimentation personalization system. That's kind of their central focus. And then you've got the growth team, typically working in a hardcore like A/B testing experimentation, right? So I think the reason that they don't operate with a smooth customer experience is because these SaaS tools that are naturally silo the customer data set. So when you've got at least three different data sets and at least three different tools for sales, marketing, and growth, you've naturally lends itself to kind of disconnected customer experiences. So which results in lost customer revenue, because you've got the sales team talking to the customer different from the email they just got from marketing. So that really, the problem starts with the data, and then if you have disconnected data sets, you've got disconnected AI. I mean, the AI is operating, as we all know now, and as we're learning with large language models, like they've gone mainstream now, is that these are AIs, unprecedentedly effective now, but it's also increasingly, you'll see it being, as it's applied to more agentic applications, you'll see the AI being limited by the quality of the customer data that it operates with. And so it's even more important now than it ever was before for particularly agile product-led teams in e-commerce or SaaS to operate on a unified data set, where sales teams are not seeing your activity different from marketing teams, are not seeing your activity different from the product team.
Right.
Or the growth team. So I think we started out about 5 years ago, we started out with a customer data platform that unifies these data sets. And then, fast forward, we've been able to build products in the marketing and growth space, and in 2025 in the sales space that allow the vision to come to life.
Okay, great. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about what's happening in the broader market. So as you mentioned, AI now is playing a bigger role, and companies are really trying to utilize AI in various ways. So what would you say are major trends that are really shaping the market and customer data space right now, and the use of AI?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's such a wonderful, pretty open-ended question. So you could probably talk for hours on that topic. But one very interesting thing that I think we're going to see now is agentic applications on top of the classic large language models that we have seen now. These foundation models have come to some level of maturity. So you've seen now DeepSeek being able to do what OpenAI did 2 years ago. You've got Anthropic with Claude. I think there's the foundational models will probably reach a level of where they have absorbed all level of human knowledge. And so now what we're going to see is a desire to apply what they're calling agentic, which I think is a desire to have them operate on business workflows. So I think in this space, one of the big problems to solve is, how do you take a customer data set that a business has? So let's say the data set that you might acquire in marketing or in sales for Mo Digital. How do you take that data set, and how do you naturally ask a large language model about more insights and actions that you can take on your customers or your leads? So I think this problem is huge interest to companies that are quote unquote CRM companies or CRM applications. I think this will be a fantastic problem space to solve. Now the large language models have a fancy acronym they use, which is called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. And they've used typically files, right? So they say, hey, you can upload your files to OpenAI or any other model, and the model will fine tune itself on whatever files you upload. In a question, it will answer based on the files that you uploaded. If you sort of take that pattern and you say, okay, well, I don't have a file, I have an entire CRM, and I have a marketing CRM and a sales CRM, and my product teams have a quote unquote product CRM or product data that they all want insights on the customer and the actions they can take on the customer. Well, how can a large language model operate on that? I think that is a massive opportunity for many companies, including Intempt Technologies, and is personally a very, very interesting problem that I'm delighted to spend the next phase of my work on. Large language models, I think, have given us all that have been in SaaS a long, long time, and in the CRM space a long, long time, kind of this almost this breath of fresh air, where we're like, oh wow, like now we can have this enormous deep learning model that we can optimize and make marketing and sales smarter. So I think it's a fascinating and super
exciting times.
Yeah, it's super exciting times. I was just speaking to I was just speaking to someone yesterday, and I said, the it's almost like whiplash because like the amount of every single week goes by. I just started a little newsletter called this week in go to market AI, GTM AI, and it just lists like the 20 things I think are new in a week, and then it's like and I've been writing this. It just almost have whiplash on like how much is happening in a week. It's ridiculous because I mean,
Absolutely.
you're used to innovation, but like the amount I see happening in a week, I'm used to seeing it in I don't want to say a year, but like definitely months.
Right.
So it's almost like mind blowing right now the speed at which this thing is moving.
So, with all of that happening and all of these changes and just different companies coming into the space, how does Intempt really differentiate itself from other platforms?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I think obviously we have a significant investment in AI, like any startup now that's investing in its R&D roadmap. So I think it's almost cliche to talk about our investment in, like I said, fine tuning large language models to work really well in the customer data space. And I think how well we solve that problem at Intent Technologies versus other companies will dictate a lot of what we call just magical moments when you use the growth OS. Where we have, I think, a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like our product people like live for this. We have once in a lifetime opportunity to make our products truly magical when you first log in. When you just first log in and you start using it, and I think how well we fine tune a large language model or what we call RAG or other techniques will determine how differentiated any company is on top of a large language model. Now that said, I think the real differentiator for Intempt Technologies, besides AI, is really what I started with, which is we believe that a single workspace or a single surface for product and growth teams, marketing and sales teams to coordinate their customer lifecycle on a common data set and a common set of insights from a customer data platform or a large language model or the combination there too is the right way for someone buying technology in the space. That's the right way for them to think about buying a SaaS platform today, instead of a set of disconnected tools that each operate on their own version of the customer. So I think Intempt's orientation and thesis around the problem will allow it to remain differentiated or an interesting product to try and look at. And today, buyers have many compelling products, and they have many different thesis or angles, and a lot of great founders and great products out there in this space, no doubt. But if you're looking at our product and if you're looking at the Growth OS, think about how does my product marketing and sales team communicate to the customer today, and are their communications coordinated and relevant, and are they operating on the same data set? I think that is I think a major leg up for us.
And with that said, how many with your competitors are most not operating that way? Are you guys one kind of unique in that way of operating off of one data set, or do you have a lot of competitors that are shifting to that?
Yeah, I think I think there certainly are competitors operating on a unified data set. The Salesforce, Adobe, HubSpot, they've always had a unified data set. Now we serve SMB, e-commerce, and SaaS businesses. We serve startups. We serve startups looking to grow fast. So Series A startups looking to accelerate, or non venture funded companies looking to accelerate. So, and when it comes to the needs of, and if you look at your classic, let's call it like 11 to 200 person or 11 to 500 employee e-commerce SaaS company, or mobile app, when you go and have a customer meeting inside of this company, you see that if you take the product marketing and sales teams, you're looking at fewer than 10 people. We've got customers with fewer than 5 people in total in the product marketing and sales team, right? And when you look at the needs of businesses that are running lean and mean in these teams, they have larger operations teams and in some cases, engineering teams. But if they're operating lean and mean and go to market teams, so we're talking about 5 to 10 people, you're not buying fantastic. Don't get me wrong, like we integrate with CRMs, HubSpot, Shopify, Stripe. But a lot of Salesforce and Adobe tooling is fantastic tools. I mean, I was a product manager, at big tech, and fantastic tools. The entry price points are 50K. The number of people and the concepts. It's not just the people. The number of concepts that you need to understand to operate these tools. I mean, puts a pretty high cognitive load on the organization. So I think that start out with the growth OS. If your requirements dictate that you move to more complex enterprise tooling, then you do. But I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, because what's funny about building a startup in this space is a lot of the needs of small businesses are actually very, very similar to the needs of enterprise companies, because because the way you do customer relationship software, it turns out, is pretty common. Or the way you do customer relationships is pretty common. So it's funny that the way we built our tools and our price points and the number of people required to operate them is different, but a lot of our power is very similar.
So building a company obviously comes with unique challenges, and I'd love to dive a little bit into how you guys have, grown over this time. And so what would you say has been the most effective marketing strategy for Intempt so far?
Yeah, I would say that we've tried many ways of marketing and growing ourselves, and I think by far, I can spend time on some of the things that failed, but I'll tell you, by far the edge today in terms of growing. Take it in terms of growing. You mean acquiring customers? Yeah. You mean acquisition? Yeah.
Right.
I think by far the edge today is, and it takes a long time to get. We're still trying to get smoother and smoother at this. Is positioning and messaging on organic channels. So fluidly and how naturally can you talk about your product and your reason to exist on organic channels. So I'm talking about LinkedIn, Twitter. I don't believe SEO is dead. You just have to get better at really being able to rank on the engines and rank in the LLMs now. So and you have to produce content that is relatable and relevant to the workflows that your customers care about. So, for example, in our case, we have very strong integrations with HubSpot. We have very strong integrations with Stripe now, and we have very strong integrations with Shopify, like I was saying. And these are the tools that our customers use and love and care about. So, can you talk about your product in the context of the integrations or the tools that you partner with, right? I think that is one. And can you talk about it smoothly on LinkedIn and Twitter and get yourself ranked on LLMs or the search engines? I think that is an edge today. The second thing I would say is if you sort of understand your positioning, your messaging, and how you play well with the industry, and you can talk about that, you'll be relatable. And secondly, can you do that on video? Right. I really believe the other edge today is, you don't just do that. You have to do that with simple text. You have to do that with simple images. And then you have to, and you don't have to complicate it. You have an image, picture speaks 1,000 words. You have to be able to write simply on social in text. And then you have to be able, how good are you or your team on communicating on video? I think if you nail these fundamentals I understand my position, I understand my message, I understand who I'm relevant for, and then can I communicate it in a tweet? Can I communicate it in a LinkedIn post? Can I communicate it in video, in a 30-second video? And if the answers to these questions are yes, you will get traction. You will get brand, and you will build pipeline. Yeah, I think if you cannot nail these fundamentals, then don't jump to ads. Don't jump to cold email. It is extremely difficult right now to get into inboxes, and no matter how good you get at advertising, and no matter how good you get at cold email, you must. I would nail these fundamentals on organic first.
Right.
And that's the best advice I can give you. That said, listen, I still send I still send cold email, but I handwrite all of them. And I'm tempted. We don't do ads, but I'm tempted to try my hand at LinkedIn ads. And so I think everything works. But if I was to do it over and over and over again, I would get really good at talking about in a one to many context, get really good at talking with images, text, and video, short form, all short form.
And I know that when you first started answering this, you mentioned some failures. Would you mind sharing what hasn't worked for you guys and why you think it didn't work?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll tell you some trendy things that, I'll tell you one trendy thing that hasn't really worked for us. And maybe we just haven't gotten good enough at it. But there's a lot of talk about, doing this, what they call warm outbound or signals based outreach, through, it's in effect a cold email, but they're saying, oh, hey, you can use Clay and you can use, these scraping technologies to and by the way, we love Clay and we're a Clay customer. It's not about Clay. It's about ultimately using some of these signals, and then being able to send cold email through these cold emails. We've tried it, and it didn't work for us. AI SDR is another trendy thing. It's just throw an AI SDR at it. Auto generates the copy and it just sends these automatically generated emails through these AI SDRs. We didn't try that because I just looked at that and said, "There's no way that's going to fly." But these cold email techniques haven't worked for us. Now it's quite possible that it works for simpler products and services that it's just a quick purchase decision, and so it could be because of what you sell. But yeah, I'm not a fan of even utilizing a lot of signals now and utilizing AI SDRs or utilizing any kind of cold email tool at scale. And I think actually the fundamental problem is not even maybe the email. The fundamental problem is, and rightfully so, I think Google and Microsoft are basically protecting your inbox. So, today the cold email tools are telling you, oh, it's 20 emails per day maximum per inbox that you can send. And I think that number is going to go down to 5 emails per day per inbox. How many inboxes and domains you're going to spin up to send 1,000 emails a day? I mean, this problem just, I think, is fundamentally a bad habit in marketing. So stay out of it as much as you can. I say stay out of cold email as much as you can, stay out of ads as much as you can. These things I think are scaling functions in marketing. So if you're trying to become a marketer that, is able to work without what we call the last resort, like crutches at scale, at least they won't work. I still believe in a solid founder handcrafted email that you send someone knowing that you have a lot of value to add to them and you know what you're writing and you know how you're reaching out. I absolutely say you must never stop doing that. That's been true for decades before any technology. You need no technology to do that. You just need to understand who you're talking to and send them an email like a human. I think that always works, but that is not really an application. That's not really marketing. That's just kind of a good salesmanship. I think in marketing, I would stay away from cold email and ads. Even with some sort of signal on cold email, I would do we've tried it. We haven't tried ads, but cold email hasn't worked for us. And I would have to see a very compelling case. I mean, I think there's some fantastic companies, by the way, in cold email with AI, and I know the founders and I respect them, but I'd still have to see something that just blows my mind. As a receiver of this marketing, I get lots of my inbox is flooded, so is yours, I'm sure. And I think I just have to see something before I try that.
For sure. So every founder, of course, has moments where they hit walls, whether it's fundraising, product development, customer adoption. What have been some of the biggest challenges that you face?
Yeah. I mean, look, listen, I think it's funny. I get asked this question from time to time, and every time it's maybe I have a more of an honest answer. I don't know, but I've hit a lot of walls, and I think probably the first wall you hit is I think you're just not that good as a founder. I'm sorry, but it is kind of the truth. As a founder, you kind of have to first of all, you have to be somewhat of a visionary to see into the future, because nothing you do is going to really happen for 3 years. Okay, I mean, let's be what's going to happen in 3 years? It's going to happen for 3 years from the time you start founding a company. First of all, you have to know kind of what is somebody will really want in 3 years, and I think that's the first thing that you overestimate about yourselves, that you kind of able to see 3 years out, and especially now with LLMs and AI, I think you have to be a really, really good founder to see 3 years out and be spot on, right? So I think, I like anyone else in the Bay, like I grew up like, like kind of like idolizing Steve Jobs, and you just like look at this stuff and you go like, oh shit, like, I want to be that. I want to be that. I want to be like, a tenth of that. And, a hundredth of that, I don't know, a thousandth of Steve, of a Steve Jobs, and like you go, okay. And so you think, oh yeah, I got it. Like, and I think for the first things that like, I think screwed me up as a founder is you really don't know what the world looks like in 3 years. Then you think it's 3 years, but it's really 5. And you don't really know what you're doing in terms of the product being as differentiated or relevant, 36 months after you conceived it in your brain, then you got a team to like, build it with you. And then, you had a lot of like, problems in developing it and so on. So I think that was the very first thing that, like, I think for a lot of years, Intempt Technologies, like kind of, and myself as a founder, we were like, oh no, like, let's not build this, let's go build that because, I didn't really see it right, so start over or change the product plan. And I think this is, just, you just have to get really good as a founder before you can sort of only change your product plan like 20%, and if you're changing your product plan like 60%, I mean, come on, you're starting over. And that's what we call a pivot, like a fancy word, a pivot. Like it basically means you got to run, change the whole plan. So we had that, like it happened to us. And then I take full responsibility for it. Like we're just not that good as a founder to be able to see the future and then get the product right and get the messaging right and positioning right. And somebody goes, ooh, yeah, you anticipated my needs before, I could. And 3 years ago, and now you're right. I mean, I think this stuff was just really hard for us. And so we had that in like the literally the first version of the company, and it is just, and to some extent, I think we still have that, frankly, because now LLMs have come along and AI has come along, and in the last 18 months, I've looked at this and go, oh shit, like who the hell now what? Like, CRMs are basically like integrated into LLMs. It's like where CRMs used to be databases. I mean, now they're like integrated LLMs. And now what happens, right? So, I mean, I just think like, just looked at this going like, oh, it's an amazing opportunity, but oh shit. Like, 3 years ago, when we conceptualized this plan, like, who the hell knew that we're going to have OpenAI and Anthropic here. So I think, that I think is a huge part of myself personally, and then the founders I speak to. It's like, I mean, that's why we can't, you can't just sort of make it, in a year one, a year two. So I think that's I think a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's
And
lots of
what
problems.
has
There's
been,
lots of problems running a company, but or building something from 0 to 1. But I think this is 80% of it. And I think the second thing I will say is that, and I think it is more of a surmountable problem. But I think the product problem, by this product vision strategy problem, I think is very underestimated. People have this trope now that they think that, oh, products just commodity and like easy to build, and it's so much harder to do distribution. Yeah, that looks true when you've not put enough thought and vision into product. I'm sorry, that looks true. But you want to tell me that OpenAI and has a distribution problem today? Sorry, that OpenAI has a commoditized product? Really? Even if the foundational models are getting productized, their apps absolutely nowhere near commoditizing. What are we talking about? So I think this is easy to say that, like, like, oh, it's all about distribution, everybody's got the same product, but it's so not true for the best companies in the world. That's absolutely not true. So I think the first of the problems is you have a product problem, and by product problem, I just don't mean your product's functional. I mean that your product's truly good, just good. You're not even magical, but just very, very good. I think that's a problem. So I think that's, a big problem. And then, of course, when you get to the go-to-market side or the distribution side, I think it's a more surmountable problem. But, some of the problems there are pretty classic for a lot of SaaS companies. We've talked about some of them here, and I think we run through those. But those are not, in my mind, those don't keep me awake at night. If you cannot build a great product, honestly, you don't deserve to exist. You don't deserve to put more junk out there in the world. Just do it just because you want to be, a founder, or you want to have a company.
right. That makes sense. So what's been the most frustrating part of scaling Intempt?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still in the trenches, or the continuous reinvention of our lives with LLMs, as we call it, and with AI to kind of, deepen the relevance of, like I said, with CRMs, with LLMs here. But I think, in terms of scaling, so I think it's fairly easy to uh, the first phase, I think that we're past now. The first hardest phase, like I talked about, you have to do a lot of customer development, right? It's you have to do this like one on one. I think when Superhuman, Gaurav Vora at Superhuman, kind of like really popularized this concept for me, which is they would do like this white glove, like where every single customer that you onboarded would be white gloved, right? So you would just go to e-commerce companies and SaaS companies in our case, and mobile apps in our case. And I went to all these three kinds of companies, and I personally white gloved, and I still do. But whenever I see a company that we haven't exactly done their use case, I still go white glove it. And I think the first hard phase that we're past, mostly past now. Like I said, I still do some white glove onboarding, but I think that's the first phase of scaling or just building the first phase of it. And I think now we're entering the second phase, which is more systematic, like transactional marketing and selling, where you're gonna where it's just like your acquisition is your funnel's online, and your acquisition is online, and your onboarding is totally self-service, and intercom intercom is like gonna answer questions, right? That's it. I think we got Finn now on intercom, like with the knowledge base, or like a help center is now like on intercom Finn, and like it answers questions, and it still kind of freaks me out a little bit because I've been doing all the white glove onboarding myself, and like it's like, oh, like what's this thing gonna answer? But I've learned to let go, like and let it let it answer. So I think now, like I think the challenge is going to be like, can we get the funnel to be high converting? So there's a lot here. There's the self-serve funnel. There's the self-service, like we have a 2-week trial. So the self-service two week trial funnel. Then there's the onboarding piece for us, and onboarding is complex for us. Like I said, you could be a product and growth person onboarding, could be a marketing person or a sales rep onboarding. Mm-hmm. Like, so I think because of these different personas, like onboarding is complex, and we've letting that go self-service as well. And so that's a challenging piece. So that's kind of the mid-funnel piece after like the social acquisition that I talked about. And then, finally, all of our products are a la carte. So you can buy just one small product for one small use case, super affordable. And then you can, like I said, you can buy like kind of 7 or 8 products with us right now, like all a la carte. So it's all that cross-sell, upsell, expansion flows as well. So, in our case, scaling really is optimizing for these 3 vectors. It's the acquisition vector, and part of our funnel. Then it's the conversion, onboarding, and activation. So part of our funnel. And then finally, they usually just buy one product, and then it's the expansion side of it, which is, hey, you bought our journeys product, now you want to buy experimentation or the A/B testing product. Can we smoothly expand you? So I'm working through it. We're working through the these 3 funnels, and when we have those dialed, then sort of talk about, instead of just talking about the direct channel, then you can start talking about other distribution channels such as agencies or affiliates.
So looking ahead now at the roadmap for the next 12 months, what are the biggest goals that you're focused on for Intempt right now for the next year?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, my favorite part, like talking about the future. So look, so this entire year we've already started, and actually we already started like at sort of the end of last year in terms of our product concept. So we still have a pretty, well, in a word, agentic. In a word, we are focused on bringing a lot of agentic technology into our products, right? So, but I'll tell you what we're really focused on right now is our sales platform, or our sales product, making that agentic. So by that I mean a lot of reps today cannot self-source their pipeline, and they are reliant on an army of SDRs to self-source their pipeline. Okay. So if you've got an account executive, if you've got a rep, and he's just reliant on several SDRs to kind of build his pipeline so he can close it. Now, and they're product qualified and so on, parts of the pipeline as well. But then there's also direct sourced by the SDR from inbound or outbound, right? So I think this problem, should not be solved by an AI SDR. So there's a lot of talk in the space about, oh yeah, like, we just throw an AI SDR at it, and so it's done, right? You can fire all the SDRs, and the rep can self-source their pipeline, and we're done with this. Respectfully, I don't think that this is the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem is, can you use agentic technology or LLMs to give account research and lead research, bring it to the hands of the sales rep, right? So the sales rep can be much more powerful, because if you look at a classic sales rep's workflow, or got LinkedIn tabs open, they've got Google searches open, they've got Crunchbase open. They're just basically doing a ton of tab research and tabs in the browser, and then they do a ton of research before they can actually go and send an email out to a lead. Kind of like what you and me might do if we're going to do some outreach, right? So I think that's what they've been doing for years. And the problem is not to throw an AI SDR at it. The problem is, can you give them a smart product that allows them to do account research and lead research, right? And with the power of LLMs. And so an agentic type of product. And then allow them to smoothly, in the same product, not jump around products, to be able to go from this account lead research to doing outreach, right? And at scale. So I think that allows them, to the self-source pipeline, superpower the sales rep and to be able to do the work of several SDRs and not throw AI SDRs at it. So that is the vision that we are on in 2025. And how do you make that smoothly work with our marketing and product/growth tools? And so that's kind of where we're applying agentic in 2020. And that's a bulk of our roadmap. Besides the 20 to 30% of our roadmap that's answering feature enhancements for existing customers. That's our bulk of our roadmap.
Well, that's exciting.
My favorite part of running the company is still product.
Nice. So before we wrap up, this is somewhat open-ended for you. For new founders or business leaders, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. Look, I'm for new founders or business leaders. Yeah. Not much for doling out advice, but I'll just say the advice that I would give my younger self if I was doing this again for the first time is really know why you're doing it. And I don't just mean about, I'm really passionate about solving this problem for this person. That's good. You should actually really know that. Don't screw that up. That's the kind of founder 101. But I think and I didn't really realize this, any founder journey done right is a 10-year journey. I'm sorry, but it is. And I think a lot of founders, including me, you don't really digest this, but it really is to start a 3-year journey. Done right. By that, I mean, you're building something like truly impactful. You have to know your why in terms of being really passionate about the problem you're solving, sure. But you also have to personally know that you really want to do this for a longer period of time. I mean, it doesn't have to be 10 years, but probably 7, right? But if you're talking 3 years and I'm out, I think you need to think about, go back to the problem and something, and then redefine your why. And I think if you don't do enough of that work, I think it'll just take you longer. It'll actually take you longer to do it. And one of the I wish I could have taken credit for this quote, but one of the quotes that I read was that if you give something 80, it will give you back 80%. And if you give something 100%, it will give you back 10 times 1,000%. Because it is just that hard to give something all of yourself and go all in. It is extremely hard to go from that 80 to that 100%. So the universe gives you back an X. And I think this does make sense intuitively in what I've seen. And so if you were to start over again, you better understand, are you 80% or are you 100%? And I think if you can get to 100% early, you will have much less pain and much more gain, because the universe will, boom, give you back, X, which is what you probably want. You probably want to be a founder. You want to start a company because you do want to kind of 10x yourself. And you keep scratching your head wondering, why is it not working? It's because you're actually at 80% because you don't know your why. That succinctly and deeply.
That's really great advice. And thinking about that, I fully believe that as well. It is a lot of the times you think you're giving 100, but you're probably only at 80 or less. So that's really great advice. And then for anyone who wants to learn more about Intempt or connect with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn. Very active there. Slash Sid Chaudhary on LinkedIn. Of course, you can always check out the Growth OS, which is intempt.com. I'd love that. Give me your feedback, right? I love negative feedback. Hit me up. Or just connect with me anyway. Any feedback is super valuable to me, and I love talking about the Growth OS. I love talking about marketing and growth. So yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Sid. I really appreciated all your insights. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Mo's Market Pulse. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a comment, and join us again to hear more insights from leaders coming up on future episodes. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.